just go over the activity. Hopefully you've had a go of it. We're just going to look at identifying one argument through doing a critical read, one or two, but an argument, and some reasons supporting that argument. So see if you have been able to identify an argument and give some reasons. So one way you might do this, well, first of all, let's read it. One type of explanation for rising divorce has focused on changes in laws relating to marriage. For example, Bilton, Bonnet and Jones argued that increased rates of divorce do not necessarily indicate that families are now more unstable. It's possible, they claim, that there has always been a degree of marital instability. They suggest that changes in the law have been significant because they have provided unhappily married couples with access to a legal solution to pre-existent marital problems. Bilton et al. Therefore believe that changes in divorce rates can be best explained in terms of changes in the legal system. The problem with this type of explanation, however, is that it does not consider why these laws were changed in the first place. It could be argued that reforms to family law, as well as the increased rate of divorce that's accompanied them, are the product of a more fundamental change in society, or of more fundamental changes in society. Right, so if you were doing a critical read of this, looking for an argument, you might you should jot down your thoughts as you go. And perhaps what you might be jotting down is, well, the main argument that's being presented here is that the argument given by Bilton, etc., Bilton et al., is not quite right. And then you'd be asking yourself why. So looking back through the text, why did they say it's not quite right? Well, they said there's something missing. It doesn't go deep enough. There was some aspect of that argument that didn't quite capture. What was that? It was that, well, what they're saying is that something else causes the rate rise, right? So that if something else does cause what Bilton is saying causes the rate rise, well, if there's some other cause underneath that, then that would be the real reason. So you might be writing, this causes that, and jotting out some sort of thing like what I've got on the screen here. Not exactly like this, but basically to show you as you're writing, you're taking notes, honing in on your thoughts, expressing them in some kind of structural way, so that your final draft might end up, well, there's not a draft, but one draft might end up something like, trying to capture what they're saying. If something's causing divorce law change, then it may be the real reason behind rising divorce. So Bilton's argument, which is that increased divorce rates are better explained by changes in the law, that argument neglects to account for factors which may cause those changes themselves. For example, changes in the law might be driven by societal changes, so these changes shouldn't be neglected as the possible cause. And I've got there, well, you might want to look up what other possible causes are there. Maybe it might be just one, there might be more, and this also drives you to another critical close read. You go and look, what other causes might there be alongside societal causes? Or if it's the only cause, do a closer read on that, societal changes that are being identified as the cause. So that sort of thing is what I mean when I'm saying writing as you're doing a critical read will help you both develop your argument, but it's also going to help you start the writing process for your entire essay answer. So the thing to remember really is that the critical reading and reading generally, but particularly critical reading, is about ideas. Not as much as about words as you would think. It's more about ideas. So all the time when you're reading, you're asking yourself, what do I think? And then you're asking why? And then what does the author think? And then again, you're asking why? And at each stage, you're taking notes. What do I think about what the author thinks and why? So at every stage, you're doing active reading and thinking and engaging with the concepts in the text that you're doing a close read of. So the main point of reading and writing in conjunction, so to write as you read, is that you're trying to produce a piece that answers the question. You've been given an essay question, and doing that you might have a set of sub-questions. So you're trying to answer the question in your set of sub-questions that you've identified as needing exploring to develop your opinion and your argument. You're not trying to reproduce what others think. So you're trying to engage with the text and bring out your thoughts. So you're keeping your own argument, your own ideas, your own set of sub-questions always to mind, and writing and taking notes throughout. So that when you take notes, remember you're trying to transform your ideas, transform the ideas that you've come up with in the readings into a form that you can use to construct your own argument and answer your set of sub-questions that you've identified, which is answering the essay question. So remember, what we're aiming for when we're doing active reading is to better work out for yourself what the key ideas are, and rewrite in your own words, thinking about how these ideas are relevant to your argument and to the questions that you see as important. So you're not trying to highlight or underline, you're trying to better work out for yourself what the key ideas are and to begin to express that in the form that eventually is going to help your final structure and your final essay response.